This is Kohli from War Machine Marketing, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Turn it up, crank it up, and bang your face off.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather. As always, I am bringing you guys awesome interviews, and today is an honor and a privilege to have Mr. Kohli. He is the CEO of War Machine Marketing. War Machine Marketing has done logos for Konami video games, Taco Bell, and logos for events, and also they've done tour merch and worked with the Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age. They've also make custom action figures, and he's made a custom Freddy Krueger figure of his wife and a custom figure of himself. So that's pretty damn cool for what you've accomplished so far, Ro. But today we're going to be talking to Ro about the mighty Pantera and what he is doing to pay tribute to Pantera and what they have brought to the table over the years for us metalheads. So, Ro, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How's things? Everything good?
Doing awesome. Glad to have you on here. And
Excellent.
thank you tremendously for what you're doing for these little mini guitars we're going to talk about.
Sure, of course. So yeah, I mean, we're really excited to be doing these Pantera mini guitars for San Diego Comic-Con as an exclusive. You know, the first time I got to see Pantera was back in '92, I think it was, on their very first Vulgar Display of Power tour, and ever since then, they've been, just a staple in my life and in the life of so many other metalheads. And after what happened to Dimebag Darrell, it's like how tragic and heartbreaking that was in and of itself. When at the time, it's like I was kind of out of the music industry. So it's almost like, you want to pay tribute with everybody else, but, if you're not in the music industry, it's like you can only do it as a fan. And so, fast forward to this year, I felt that, I wanted to do something for Pantera fans, especially, that no one had ever done yet, So I partnered up with a company called Axe Heaven, who makes miniature guitars that are really, really dope. Definitely check them out when you get a chance. It's axeheaven.com. I mean, they did the Dimebag Dime Slime. They've done the Dimebag Lightning Bolt. So they've done a lot of Dimes guitars. But while that's awesome, and I love Dimebag just like you do,
mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something that was more than just a Dimebag tribute. I wanted to pay tribute to the band themselves. The band, because Dimebag, as awesome as he was 25% of this band. And so you still have Phil, you still have Rex, you still have Vinnie. And I wanted to do something that didn't just focus solely on one person. And so I came up with the idea of, what if we took Dimebag's signature Dean model guitar, and what if we put the album artwork on them? Instead of just doing his signature guitars, if we put the album artwork on it, it puts an emphasis on his guitar work, but it also puts an emphasis on the album covers. And I know that you're probably just like me. When you see the cover of Far Beyond Driven, when you see the cover of Vulgar Display of Power, it elicits a certain memory. It sparks a certain feeling that you had maybe when you bought the record, when a friend played This Love for You for the first time, when you first heard Strength Beyond Strength.
Yeah.
It brings that back, and it brings back those feelings on, whether you heard it for the first time, maybe it was the song you got laid to, whatever it might be. And so I wanted it to be something that encompassed the band also, especially since, in the past several years, between the division between Vinnie and Phil and, all of the stuff that's happened, I wanted to do something. And especially just nowadays with the political environment, like Democrats versus liberals, or Democrats versus Republicans, and liberals versus conservatives, like all of this nonsense. It's all just splintering how unified we should all be. And so my thing was, you know what? When it comes to Pantera, I don't care if you voted for Trump. I don't care if you are part of the religious right. Like, I don't care. If we are all at a Pantera show, then we all know why we're here.
Yep.
And that's what matters. Music is what matters. The feeling is what matters. The experience is what matters. And that's what I wanted these guitars to say without saying, is everybody's here for the same reason. And the reason is Pantera. And that's it. It's like, it's always a great feeling when you go to a show, or, my favorite is like, especially nowadays, you go to a concert and in between the bands, they have the music playing, whatever just between band music, whatever you call it. It's like you see Pantera will come on to play Domination or something, and all of a sudden this furious pit just forms. And there's technically not a band on stage right now. But it's just because but it's Pantera, so people you can't not move to it. And I think, and that's kind of the beauty of it. And that was always the thing about seeing Pantera shows back in New York and New Jersey and everything back in the day, was Pantera was like one of the first shows where I would call them kind of friendly mosh pits, where it was kind of like somebody fell down and you had like 4 dudes to help that person back up, make sure that they were okay. I always felt that love at Pantera shows. And, it's like, that's everything that we want to put in these guitars, and to give people that feeling of, yeah, remember that? Like that was good, man. Before the world became so overly sensitive, before the world became so PC, before the world became so auto-tuned, we had Pantera.
1,000% agree with you, man. Plus you had Metallica at that time, was at their highest peak, I think. And then you had Pantera, who came along to help solidify the metal foundation, as I should say. I think that they put the nail in the coffin of it to say, hey, fuck you all, we're here, and this is what we want. We're angry, we're mad, but we're here to have a good time.
But we're here to have fun. And that's exactly it. Whereas in 92 especially, grunge was really kind of in its real powerhouse time. So it was almost like, okay, you're either allowed to feel miserable being in grunge, and not that I have a problem with grunge. I love Nirvana, I love Pearl Jam, but it's like it became this very divided thing where it's like, okay, if you're into grunge, then you're just depressed flannel wearing kid with floppy hair, or you're metalhead, angry Hesher, blah 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 blah. And it was just like, and that's what was so awesome about Pantera shows, was that everybody that was there was like, no, I don't really want to feel miserable. That was why I always loved being in the crowd right before the pit started, and you get that weird butterflies in your stomach, like just before a job interview feeling, because you could feel the electricity from the crowd, and you just think to yourself, there's no place I'd rather be right now. Like there's absolutely no place I would rather be right now than right here. And that was, like I said, that's what we really want to bring into this, into the vibe of this whole thing, is that feeling, is the feeling of unity. Because I think that's really what's missing. And that's why I was really hoping that, before Vinnie Paul passed away the other week, that I was kind of hoping, and maybe, I don't know, I don't want to say it was egotistical or anything like that, but it was one of those things where I was kind of hoping that it could be something that bridged the gap, that maybe there was a way that Vinnie and Phil and Rex could all be in the same room together again and talk. I was hoping that it would kind of be the glue that would sort of maybe bridge things, and then unfortunately, we are where we are right now. But on the flip side of it, it might be the glue that brings fans back together again, that makes people think like, okay, you know what? All this other crap is just nonsense, Right. Somebody throw on Hollow. Somebody throw on By Demons Be Driven. Somebody throw on some Heresy or Cowboys from Hell. Like, let's rock. Yeah. That's really what I wanted to bring out with these guitars.
Speaking of these mini guitars that you're working on, with the logo, or the album covers, I should say, did you have to go through a lot of hurdles to get these approved, or no? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Surprisingly enough, it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Wow.
I was really expecting it to be this very red tape heavy, bureaucratic, you got to go through this many levels of approval. And it really wasn't like that at all, at least not for this case. I don't want to say it's going to be like that for everything, but especially for this, I've known Pantera's manager for the last 20 some odd years, just in the industry and everything. And I've always wanted to work with her on something Pantera related, and nothing was ever really there to do that with, And luckily Axe Heaven they had already had the license for Dean Guitars and for Dimebag's Guitars. So the only thing we had to do at that point was just get Pantera's merchandisers, Bravado, to sign off on it. When we entered this whole thing, we already had 2/3 of it done without even realizing it. And then it was just kind of one last contract to go through, and it worked out really well. And Dean had already made a Vulgar Display of Power guitar, and they were planning on doing a Far Beyond Driven one, but it just never really materialized. So, now I was just like, all right, cool. Well, now's our chance to do something that nobody's done yet. They've already done Vulgar, and that's great, but they haven't done Far Beyond Driven. They haven't done Great Southern Trendkill. And then on top of it, we did the album cover for Far Beyond Bootleg, which was only available, I think, on vinyl, and the alternate cover of Great Southern Trendkill. So it's like nobody's ever done anything with those things. So I was like, cool. Like let's give fans something that they're not going to see, or that they've never seen. It really was it was not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. It did definitely take a minute, but it was not as painful as I thought it was going to be.
Speaking of the Great Southern Trendkill alternate cover, that's pretty awesome. I've got to see that, and I like that, man. I like the black background. I like the dual color of the snake, of the rattlesnake.
Yeah, totally.
That is so well worth it, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do like the other one with the bright colors and everything like that. But sometimes if you just calm it down, it looks so damn better in some aspects. That's just my opinion.
I definitely hear you on that. Because I didn't even realize we were originally going to do the Far Beyond Driven alternate cover with the screw going in the dude's butt, and I was like, yeah. I was like, I've always been not so happy with that cover because I just thought it was so weird and it didn't ever really fit that Pantera vibe that I always felt.
Right.
Plus, I also thought it was a little too rated X for what I wanted to do. Not that I'm like Captain PG-13 or anything like that, but I just felt like it was just. It wasn't keeping really in the vibe of what I wanted to kind of have. And plus, nobody's ever really done anything with the Far Beyond Bootlegs album cover, so I thought that would be a really cool thing. But the Great Southern Trendkill alternate cover, I actually hadn't seen until we started doing these guitars. And I totally agree with you. I love how it looks almost like a pencil drawing.
Yeah. Yep.
Like the kind of when you had that guy or girl in high school who is just really good at art, and while you're doodling pentagrams and upside down crosses in your book, like she's got some crazy Mona Lisa paint, and you're like, how are you doing that? Like that's kind of what it reminded me of like somebody who was like, oh yeah, I just did this doodle of this awesome looking rattlesnake. I'm like, really? Holy crap. And that's why when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's such the perfect super limited edition version for this set. And I was really, really excited about that because it was something I had not really seen. And it was just something that was, no matter how long I've been into Pantera for like what, 20 plus years, there's still so much about Pantera that I haven't seen. There's still, it was cool that there was still stuff that could surprise me.
There's a lot of stuff you could do with all this, man, that would make it look freaking amazing. But how long does it take you to make these one-of-a-kind Pantera mini guitars? Do you send okay, this is the design we want to do, you send it off, they make the molds, they do everything there and then send it back to you, or is this in your hands working on it?
Oh, no. Like I said, Axe Heaven is the company that does these miniature guitars.
Oh, okay.
What we wanted to do was really put the War Machine marketing stamp on it, to really say like, yes, we know this is Pantera, but War Machine marketing wants to present it to the world. That's really what it was. It was kind of like, we have this idea that we think is really cool, and we want to present it to the world. And I look at it kind of like Axe Heaven is my gun, and these guitars are the bullets. Without Axe Heaven, I couldn't have done it. And without and same thing goes. It's like without the ammo, the gun is kind of not useless, but the gun doesn't have as much of a function in that regard. So I wanted to really make it this really cool thing. So when it got approved and everything, the owner of Axe Heaven, he was super cool. I met him back in January at a random convention. And I remember me and my wife were looking at the guitars, and we saw this awesome Megadeth guitar that he had. And, I'm a huge Kiss fan, so he had all the Kiss guitars. And I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. And all I kept thinking to myself was, there's got to be there's got to be some kind of way to tie this in. There's got to be some kind of way to tie this in. And I have a booth at San Diego Comic-Con every year. Actually, this is my 16th year with a booth. And I was like, I really want to make this something that connects the metal crowd with the Comic-Con crowd. You know, my whole life, I've always tried to figure out, like, how do I mix heavy metal and Star Wars? Like, that was always my thing. Like, those are my two things that I love more than anything in the world, is metal and Star Wars. How do I connect the two? And the beauty is that at San Diego Comic-Con, it's become such a pop culture thing now that it's not just comic books, it's not just toys, it's not just movies, it's everything. It's music, it's fashion, it's everything. So that's why I was like, this is the perfect place to finally bridge that gap and to really bring something to fans that, you know, that they're not going to really be able to get anywhere else. You know, I mean, Pantera's not a band anymore. So, and if you notice any of the new Pantera merch that's out, it's all images. You know, there's no pictures of the band, and there's no album artwork merchandise out there, really. You know, it's always very difficult, I would imagine. I don't have any real proof on this, but I would imagine it's a little bit difficult to get Vinnie and Phil and Rex to all agree on something that's, you know, like album cover related, because it has to do with the four of them, you know? So they just put out, you know, shirts that have skulls and rattlesnakes and, you know, cowboy hats and just these kinds of things that remind people of Pantera, but don't really give them the super connection to the band. So that's why, like, with these guitars, that's what the goal is. The goal is to really, you know, meld the two together and bring something to people that they just haven't seen yet.
What's impressed you the most about these mini guitars that made you decide to put it out there once it started to become a reality? And were you a little timid to do so at first, to do this maybe?
You know, I was a little. You know what? Let me backtrack a little bit, because you touched on a couple of things that it's really interesting. Number one, I wasn't really timid about it. I thought it was a good idea from the get-go. And, you know, like you and me and everybody else, we all have great ideas, and whether or not we can see those ideas to fruition and completion is a different story. Or just like, you know, when you're drunk and you come up with something that you and your friends think is hilarious, and then you tell somebody the next day and they're like, that's stupid, whatever. You know, you never know if people are going to have the same vibe that you do.
Right.
And so with this, I was like, look, I think this is a good idea. I think it's legit. I think it would be a really awesome item to have. Does Pantera's management think that? I don't know. You know, does Axe Heaven think that? I really don't know. But luckily with this particular situation, everybody was like, yeah, game on. Let's do this. And that's why I think that, like, while I wouldn't say I was timid about it, I was more surprised that everybody was like, yes. And I was like, really? Okay, yeah, let's do it, you know? And I know that their manager, that Pantera's manager, she's known me, like I said, for like 20 years, like ever since I was a zine kid in college and I was interning at Roadrunner Records, you know, and Concrete Management was like down the street from us, and I would just hang out in their office, like literally just sitting there watching them work. It was so ridiculous. But she knows that I'm not just some dude who's like, oh, Pantera, what a moneymaker, you know, like she knows that I am a huge fan, like that. I was, you know, when Far Beyond Driven came out, me and my buddy in college, it was like 10 degrees in February or something like that, and we like waited outside of Tower Records in New York City in the frigid cold to meet the band and get them to sign our stuff, you know. And so she's seen me in these lines, she's seen me, you know, up front, crushed against the barricade at these shows. Like, she knows that this is what I live for. So she knew that, I think she understood at least that, you know what, to have somebody like me working on this, like, that there's going to be a level of integrity, there's going to be a level of professionalism of, you know, being a fan, and like both sides, being a fan and being a professional, that make this a worthwhile endeavor.
Exactly.
And so I'm always thankful to her for, you know, having the faith in me to let me do this, you know, because like, just like anything else, somebody could just be like, no, and you'd be like, okay, cool, like that's it, like I gotta figure something else out. Yep. But she said yes. Axe Heaven said yes. Everybody around me said yes. And when we put out the press release about this, the overwhelming amount of yes that I've gotten has been deafening.
I do the show just like you, man, out of the labor of love for music. I don't care if they're a local band. I do not care if they're a national band. I will have them on this show to support them regardless. And
that's exactly it.
And I think I mean, if I'm knocking people, that's fine, but the truth is true. Some people have forgotten where they have came from. It's not all about, nationals. It's about helping people.
I agree 100%. That's exactly why what you're doing, what a lot of people do. Like, I don't know if you ever come out to Los Angeles anytime soon, we have a club out here called Skinny's, and every Wednesday night we do live band metal karaoke. And it's the greatest thing in the world. And they have a bunch of local bands open up the show. And then at 11 p.m., you can sign up to sing. You can sign up to play drums, play guitar, play bass, and, do whatever. I mean, we've had Pantera tribute nights. We've had Kiss tribute nights. We've, I get up there, I sing Cowboys from Hell. I sing Deuce by Kiss, and that's exactly it. It's a way to remember where we came from. It's a place to escape to, really.
Yep.
It's to escape the reality of all the crap you see on Facebook, all the crap you see on Twitter or on CNN or whatever, and that's really what it's about. You're right. I feel like people have forgotten where they come from.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
To quote a Pantera song.
Because yesterday don't mean shit.
That's right. Where you come from.
That's right. Can you pick a favorite mini guitar out of this lineup? Possibly, maybe.
Well, to be honest with you, it would, for me, it's a tie between Vulgar and Far Beyond Driven.
Ooh, yeah.
Because, like, when I first heard Cowboys from Hell, I thought it was a great record, but, like, I was like, yeah, it's a little too Judas Priesty for me. Like, Phil's vocals were way high. Songs like Medicine Man and stuff like that, I was like, it's not really my vibe. But then when Vulgar came out, like, I was like, oh my, yes, this is what I want. And then when Far Beyond Driven came out, and the opening song is Strength Beyond Strength, and I remember me and my buddy Craig literally not being able to get up the next morning because we had sore necks from banging our heads freaking hard to that song. And it just went from, and that record especially went from like Strength Beyond Strength to like 5 Minutes Alone to like I'm Broken, and just Suicide Note, and just everything is just so like, it was just so, and then like to end it with like Planet Caravan, a Black Sabbath song that we all love. It was such, to me, it was like the perfect Pantera record, but that Vulgar Display of Power record was my gateway. That was, that kicked the doors wide open. So it's like, to have a favorite, it's, I don't have kids, but it would literally be like, so which is your favorite kid? You'd be like, well, that was the one that we tested everything on, but he's actually way smarter, but she is actually really good at athletics. And so you'd be like, you know what? They're all great. They're all really awesome, and they're all mine, and, kind of like all my little babies. But when it comes to Pantera, it's like everybody, from me to you to everybody, has some kind of visceral experience that we can pull from these records.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, like the first time I heard Cowboys from Hell album, that was phenomenal. And then when Vulgar came out, it's like, fucking A. And then from Vulgar, it just took off for them. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's just, don't change nothing. I mean, it was just so good. And
you want to hear something funny, too, is that Far Beyond Driven was the first metal record to go #1 at Billboard first week.
How crazy is that?
And people, I remember being in the music industry and I was actually doing my fanzine, and I was interning at Roadrunner Records at the time. And that was mind-boggling. Like, nobody knew what to do. It was just such a, like, because when you have all this pop stuff that was always, top of the charts, Mariah Carey and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden it's just like, who the hell is this Pantera band? And people just going completely apeshit, like going to the shows and following the band's tour bus and just everything. It was so crazy. It was such a crazy time, but such an awesome time to be alive, and such an awesome time to be a part of it all. That's like I said, man, that's really what we're trying to capture is that feeling, and I really hope it does. I hope people, when they see it, when they touch it, when they, even just see a picture of it, it's like, I hope it really, it brings them back. It really brings them back to, I don't know, maybe a simpler time, all things considered. It was, Far Beyond Driven, Vulgar, that was all pre-internet, before social media, before, email for the most part, so it's like, it really was a simpler time, You want to make a phone call? Yeah, you better use the phone in the house on the wall, find a phone booth and call somebody. You better have change, think about how much easier, weirder things were back then. But like, I remember people being like, dude, have you heard this song and they put the phone next to their speaker, you know, it's like nobody does that anymore, you know.
God, I remember my first
Have you heard this
tape.
yet? Hold on, I'll double tape for you.
Yeah, I remember my first cassette tape. It was a dub of Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, my cousin was like, "You gotta listen to this." I fell in love. I mean,
right?
that was my first taste of metal music. At that time, metal music to me, you know.
Right.
And then
exactly,
I got so pissed off because I was watching MTV's Top 10 Countdown when it was a great show to watch at that time.
Right.
Guns N' Roses was fighting with Metallica for the #1 spot. Guns N' Roses had Patience, and I think One was coming out, and One had beat Guns N' Roses out, and I was like, oh, that sucks. And I started listening to it, and then like halfway through it, I was like, yeah, this deserved it.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, this song is powerful. Like, seriously, like One is like one of those songs where, yeah, it's like 7 minutes long, but you're like, dude, this song is about war and just the painful realities of war. Like, it's like, it wasn't just like, you know, when you had your parents or grandparents like, that sounds like Kill Your Mother music, you know? And it's like, yeah, and then you're like, no, this song is about the reality and the harshness of war and how brutal it is. You know, it's like, you always knew that there was something a little bit more, you know, just a little bit more solid, you know? Patience was, to me, always had that vibe of like, oh yeah, this is a hit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is totally a hit. Like, you know, it's almost like you wrote that hit, whereas One is just kind of like, it's this epic song that people couldn't get enough of, you know. So,
in your own opinion, Ro, what do you hope the fans, you know, take away when they see these guitars, buy these guitars for sure, and just listen to Pantera music in general for the first time? What do you hope that they take away from all this, man, if anything?
You know what? I hope, beside the fact that, you know, I don't want people to kill me because they can't get them because they're so limited. That's one thing I hope. So I hope that there's no like death threats. No, you know what I hope people take away from all of this is if they're a Pantera fan from back in the day when they got to see the band play live and experience it, or even meet Dimebag or Vinnie or Rex or Phil, that it is a constant reminder of something that was pure, you know, something that was pure, something that is something, it's a feeling that nobody can take away from you. It's a feeling that's, you know, this is going to sound like a really weird comparison, so you're going to work with me here, but it's like, imagine like a sneeze or an orgasm. It's like the most powerful thing that a body can feel, you know. When I want people to feel that again, you know, I want them to have it in their hands, see it on their shelf. I don't even care if they're looking at a picture of it online, you know. I want people to just crank it up, play it loud, air guitar your face off, air drum your face off, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. I don't, whatever, man. Get unscarred tattooed on your chest, you know, write it in Sharpie for all I care. You know, like, I just want people to have that feeling, again. And for the people who never got to see Pantera but are still fans of the band, or still fans of these records, I want them to know that even though that they didn't get to see them live or experience that level of energy and everything, that the fact that they're still fans is super important, and it's super vital, and it's super it's just really, I feel like it kind of solidifies a piece in people, you know, when we have our jobs and everything, you know, whatever jobs we have, you know, the 9-to-5s that we do, 9 times out of 10 we hate our jobs, you know, we hate the people we work with.
Truth.
And you know, we want to feel that, you know, when you're at those jobs, they're like these soul-sucking jobs, we want to feel something that's real, something that's us. And that's what I want these guitars to show people, is that this part of them, this part of this fandom, this part of, you know, if Dimebag is the reason you got into playing guitar, if Pantera is the reason you started a band, I want these guitars to bring that feeling out, you know, and to just kind of wipe away the bullshit, wipe away the politics, wipe away all the crap, and just go, you know what? Music is the most pure, visceral feeling. You know, it gives people the most purest, visceral feeling that they can possibly have. And that it's not something to be trivialized. It's something that's made us into who we are as people. And I just want it to be a reminder to people that they should keep chasing their dreams, keep chasing their passions, because that's, to me, that's what every Pantera song is about. I don't care if it's, you know, Cemetery Gates or Heresy or This Love or whatever. It's like every song is about following your passion having a great time and making sure you take care of the people that you care about. You know, like that's what Pantera is to me. So that's what I hope they walk away with.
So let's talk about the quantity of these guitars. It looks like, now this is not talking about the bootlegs or anything like that, the alternate versions, but it looks like Vulgar Display, Far Beyond Driven, Great Southern Trendkill. There's 333 of those, and looks like the Far Beyond bootleg, you've got 150 of those, and the Great Southern Trendkill alternate is 150.
That's correct.
How much are these running?
So the alternate ones, the bootleg and the variant cover, you can only buy those in the set of 5. So those are going for $350 for the set. And then the other 3 are available individually or as a set of 3. And those are $65 each, or I think for the 3 it's $195. And then if you buy the set, there's also a commemorative poker chip that we made that's celebrates the brothers. So it's got Dimebag on one side and Vinnie on the other, and it says in loving memory and has their dates. And so, you know, if you get it from there, if you get these guitars, then you get the poker chip as well. So we wanted to make it, you know, like I said, it's like originally we were going to do like this kind of golden guitar pick kind of deal to kind of tie in the Dimebag and the guitars. Once Vinnie passed, I was like, there's no way we can just be like, oh no, this is a Dimebag thing, you know. Like I was like, we have to do something. We have to do something that celebrates the brothers, you know, because same thing. If it wasn't for them, there'd be no Pantera. That's for sure.
What was your thoughts on when you heard about the passing of Vinnie? I mean, it floored me. I was sitting here and I was just getting ready to go to bed, actually. And I just refreshed my Facebook page and it said, rest in peace, Vinnie Paul. And I went, fuck, this has to be a hoax. I said, please God, let this be a hoax.
That's what we always think. The first thing that we always think is that it's fake. It's fake. And then a buddy of mine, my buddy Connor from the band All Hail the Yeti, he goes, he texted me. He's like, is it true about Vinnie Paul? And I was like, okay, that could mean any number of things. And sure enough, I looked it up and I was like, you know, I saw it on a few people's Facebook feeds, but you know, that's when I texted their manager and I was like, I just texted her, is it true? And she just wrote yes. And that was it. And I was just like, crap. Like it was such a, you know, it's really weird. It's almost like, when you watch a movie and there's like some kind of weird flashback, it's like where they show like all the events that have led up to that event. That's kind of what was going through my head, was every time I've seen him play, every time I've seen him in person, every time he shook my hand and said, hey, or took a picture with like everything just washed over me in one huge tidal wave. Yeah. And it really was too. It was that feeling of like, and then, you know, I guess on a smaller, I don't know, more selfish level, I guess you could say, was the idea of like, damn, like I was hoping I'd get a picture of him with these guitars and me, and, you know, kind of just being a part of that, you know. But it's like, yeah, after it was all said and done, when I heard about it, I was just like, it's hard to not, it's hard to, it was the same thing when Dime died. It's hard to imagine the world without him.
Yeah, I had to pull over on the side of the road when I heard about Dime. I was driving to a job interview, and I had to and it came off the radio here in Kentucky. I was like, oh, shit. I had to pull over on the side of the road and catch myself. I know people say, well, that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. No, it ain't when you love music as much as I do.
No, it's not. That's exactly. I'll tell you who else that happened with me with was Prince. I'm a huge Prince fan.
Yeah.
I love metal, but I love Prince. And when we found out about his passing, I was devastated. Like, I was just like that just blew my mind. It blew my mind in a million different ways. That was especially one that I thought was a hoax, because I was like, oh, well, that's easy. He's such a secretive, weird person that anybody could be like, oh, yeah, he died, you know. But when it happened, it was just, and not only that, but it's like, first you had Lemmy, then you had David Bowie, and then you had Prince. Like, it was like this like trifecta of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, so it really was like, and that's why I was almost like, I was even more disbelieving, because I was like, oh, wait, really? Lemmy and then David Bowie, and suddenly Prince, and then sure enough. But Prince and Dimebag and Vinnie, those were the three that really, you know, really got to me, where it's like, you like you said, you know, you just kind of have to pull over on the side of the road and just like compose yourself in a way, just like, wow, like I need to stop and think about this for a second.
Yeah, it shook me to my core, and I couldn't believe that did that. I was like, oh God.
Right. And I think that ties back into the whole guitars and everything like that, is that it, you know, if you, like you were saying, you know, and when people would be like, really, like, what's a big deal, you know, and it's like, you don't get it.
Yeah.
you don't, and that's what these guitars symbolize. Is that this is us. This is for us. This is a feeling that we have that, I can look at you and go, dude, Pantera, yeah. Far Beyond Driven, fuck yeah. And we have an instant connection no matter what. You're not going to be some guy that was like, oh yeah, I heard Pantera some time ago or something on the radio. And you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Who the hell are you? It's like, but when you meet somebody who you can tell is a Pantera fan, somebody who's got CFH tattooed on them, you go, me and you are on a level that nobody else other than other Pantera fans is ever going to understand, and that was the thing.
Do you have any stories that you'd like to share or on here about Vinnie, maybe that you've had possibly?
That's a really good question. Because whenever I've seen him or Dime, and like I said, I'm a huge Kiss fan. I've always wanted to talk to them about Kiss. And anytime I was backstage, because I have a tattoo of Gene Simmons on my back, and I got that partially, because I'm a huge Gene fan, but also because on Vulgar Video, they showed Dimebag getting Ace Frehley's face tattooed on his chest. And that was my inspiration for getting the Gene tattoo that I have. And then I met Gene and he signed it and I got that tattoo just like Dime did with Ace. And I always wanted to show it to them and I never got to, because every time I got to talk to them just for a second, 800 people would be like, hey, Vinnie, hey, Dime, blah, 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 and then they'd get taken away and I'd be like, damn it. Yeah. So while I don't have any great memories personally of that, I have that memory of I never got to talk to them about Kiss, which I've always wanted to do. So I guess I have kind of a non-memory, I guess you could say. I know so many people have oh yeah, we did Black Tooths all night and I don't remember where I was the next day, and Dimebag bought me a bus ticket home, or people have those experiences. I can tell you this, my first concert where I was in the mosh pit was Pantera. Who was it? Pantera. It was Trouble, White Zombie, and Pantera at Roseland Ballroom in New York City. And I had never been in a mosh pit before. I didn't even know what a mosh pit was. And White Zombie was about to go on, and I stood in the middle of the show of the general admission floor area, and I was like, man, I can't believe nobody's standing here. Uh-oh. This is such a great spot. And no. White Zombie came on and the place turned into a human washing machine. I didn't know what was going on. I was in high school, so I weighed probably, I don't know, $105 soaking wet. I was this little tiny Indian kid with, thin little Indian kid, and I was getting bounced around like a friggin' pinball around this pit. I had no idea what was going on. And finally, some dude who, I don't know, like I said, I was tiny back then, so he looked like he was about 40 feet tall, picked me up literally by the shoulders and lifted me up and over the barricade. And I just sat there watching the pit for White Zombie and watching the pit for Pantera. And I got in the pit at the towards the end of the show just because I was like, okay, I got to see kind of what's going on, because I wasn't ready for this to turn into football. I thought we were going to, because I'd only seen Kiss at that point at arenas. Yeah. You stood in your seat and you banged your head and you screamed along, and that was kind of the show. I wasn't expecting, tackle football during Pantera. That wasn't really what I was thinking about. And after that, I became a huge pit monger. Me and my buddies would always be in the pit. I'd be crushed up front. I was actually on the Donahue show for mosh pit injuries. So it's that Pantera show, introduced me to so many things that just cracked my metal world wide open. So while I don't have any Vinnie and Dime stories per se, that's definitely one of my favorite ones, though, is just being at that first Vulgar tour and just having my mind blown in so many different ways, and then, like I said, now to see, God, that was what, 90, that was 92. And what are we in 2018? I don't even know how many years that is anymore. 30 plus years later, it's like, I get to do this, this is, it's all I can say is it's a really weird world and it's a really weird life. And it's weird the way stuff kind of comes back around. But, I think that's ultimately the message that I want people to take away from it, is that, it may take a while, but you can still do the things that you dreamed of. I'm doing it. I'm an Indian metalhead from New Jersey. If I can do it, believe me, anybody can.
I kind of had a similar situation like you. I went to watch Static X, and I was about 3 rows back, I guess, close to the bar, up to the front. I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to see Static X real close. Fuck no, I didn't. No, sir. I got pushed to the main back, right in the middle of the pit, just about. So
Nice.
I'm a big guy, and I'm going, I'm staying right here. I'm staying right here as I'm getting moved.
Right.
I was
You're like, this is my
pissed.
spot. No, wait, this is my spot.
Yeah.
No, wait, this is my spot.
I was pissed. I was like, fuck you all. I was so mad.
You know, I do want to say one thing about Pantera and about what we do at War Machine Marketing, because you brought it up earlier briefly, is we make custom action figures.
Mm-hmm.
And so we make custom action figures, and people hire us to make just these one-off action figures. And there's no 3D printing or molds or casting, so there's no mass production whatsoever. But if people want to hire us to make a dime bag action figure, we can make it.
Nice.
And it's totally posable. We've actually done Vic Rattlehead from Megadeth. We've done Eddie from the cover of the Trooper.
Uh-huh.
We've done we did a buddy of mine who actually cosplays as the Lemmy Stormtrooper.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we did those. So yeah, I mean, I've been dying for people to come up to us and be like, hey, can you make Vinnie Paul? Hey, can you make Dime Bag? You know, believe me, I have a million different figures in mind that I'd love to make, but you know, I have one sculptor and he's only got two hands. So, you know, the stuff that I want versus the stuff that he's like, well, we still need to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, I get it.
I would love to have myself like horror related, like Pinhead.
Oh yeah.
You know, well, I don't know about Krueger. Everybody's done. That's overplayed. I love Freddy Krueger. Don't get me wrong. But
my wife just gave you a sour look.
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. I love Freddy Krueger. I love what Krueger brings to the horror realm. You know, it's just that there's so many cosplayers that want to be Krueger. There's just I don't know. I wish they would reboot him and make him more evil, more
right.
You know, more
evil
people
and more fun. Because
yeah.
that last reboot, he just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
No?
You know, I'm a big Michael Myers fan, and I'm very, very anxious to see this new Halloween coming out.
For sure. Well, that's the funny thing is that we can make you into Michael Myers.
Oh no!
So where the mask comes off and it's your head underneath.
That's awesome. Surprise!
You know, we can also do mashups too. We've done a mashup of what was it? Jason as a Sith Lord, where we have the lightsaber coming out of he's got a bloody axe and the lightsaber comes out of the axe. You know, so we could do all sorts of fun stuff like that. So if you want to be something like that, we can do a mashup. We can do you as that character. You know, that's what we do. That's one of my favorite things about War Machine Marketing. What we do is these custom action figures because they are so much fun and just so killer. And nothing is better than the feeling of when somebody gets their figure in the mail and they're just like, "What the fuck is this? Yeah. Holy shit!" Because that was the same feeling I had when I got my figure. I was like, "This is incredible." So yeah, so we're always looking to do new cool figures. If you want to be Michael Myers, drop us a line, man. We'll get it sorted out.
Jason the Hutt. Jason the Hutt. That would be funny.
Yeah. I don't know if we could do that one. That would be weird. but I mean, that's and the cool thing is that they're fully articulate. So it's like there's 10 to 14 points of articulation, removable weapons, removable accessories. We just started doing custom card backs too. So you can have your own card back with a removable blister. So you can just pop the blister off, take your figure out, play with it, have fun, put your figure in the Millennium Falcon if you want, and then put it right back in the package, snap it shut, and it's always mint. So it's like this literal playable piece of art.
Ro, what can bands and companies expect from War Machine Marketing that you would like to work with? And is there a band, I know you said Kiss, but is there a band that you would love to work with that's on your bucket list? I'm sure it's Kiss, but I asked it anyway.
Well, actually, it's a funny question because, yes, Kiss, of course, Metallica, Iron Maiden, you know, there's a ton of bands I would love to do stuff with. You know, I was lucky enough to make a tribute banner for Jeff Hanneman after he passed away for their memorial. But the funny thing is Stern Pinball, who makes a lot of amazing pinball machines, they just did the new Kiss one, the new Iron Maiden, they did Metallica, AC/DC, and I make all of their banners whenever they need the banners for one of their a new arcade that's, you know, advertising it or whatever. So it's kind of cool in that while it's not Kiss that's hiring me to make these banners, I still get to make Kiss banners. And in Vegas, there's the Kiss Mini Golf and the Kiss Wedding Chapel. And we made foam fingers for them. So, again, it's like, well, it's not exactly Gene Simmons calling me. I get to still do stuff that revolves around it, which is still super awesome. You know, I mean, as far as anybody else, is there anybody else that I would love to work with? I'm trying to think now. You know, because especially now that we've partnered with Axe Heaven, we're going to do a lot more of these kinds of really cool limited edition exclusive items. So we're talking to Dino from Fear Factory and Assassino about doing his.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do something for Monster Magnet. They're one of my favorite bands. Again, Iron Maiden. I mean, Megadeth. It was cool to see, to show Dave Mustaine, the Vic Rattlehead figure that we had made. Like, he was totally blown away. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of bands. I mean, God, I'm just looking at my collection here. I'm like, White Zombie, Acid Bath, Slipknot. There's a million bands out there. One of the things that I really want to do is something that focuses on the metal band members who have passed away. So that's something that's in the works through War Machine Marketing right now. So something that we can, where people can honor people like Peter Steele, Lemmy, Dio, the Abbott brothers, Mitch Lucker from Suicide Silence, everybody who has passed away, to really have something that commemorates them. So we're looking to do stuff like that because, as we're all getting older, and people are passing away the way they are, I don't want to lose that time, and if they have already passed away, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to. What's going on? There should be no reason that we shouldn't be able to honor them without, like right now, it's like if you want something for Peter Steele, it's like you got to buy something bootleg, or there's some magazine article or something, it's like, but it's like, I want to make something that really gives people a good feeling, just like these guitars, like that gives people a good feeling about, yes, Peter Steele was my guy. I have this cool Peter Steele official piece that commemorates him. Mm-hmm. That's really what we want to do, is we want to be able to give people the stuff they don't normally get, and to, like I said, just like with these Pantera guitars, just to bring everybody together again. I feel like the world is pretty splintered right now, so if we can be one of the pieces that holds it together, then that's not the worst way to go.
Bro, I want to thank you for what you're doing, man. This is tremendously awesome for what you're doing, partnering up with Axe. And
thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. How
can folks stay in touch with you if they need some work done with War Machine Marketing? How can they do that?
Sure. You can always email me at rok@warmachinemarketing.com. I mean, we're all over Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Pretty much once you type in War Machine M, you pretty much we pop up. But on Instagram, we also have WMM Custom Action Figures. And I think that's really about it. WarMachineMarketing.com, and we make promotional items, band merch, and I mean, we do backdrops for bands. So, there's a ton of stuff that we can do for people, and you don't have to be in a band, you got a, little league game coming up and you need shirts for your team, we'll make them. You got a church event that's coming up and you need, coasters for napkins, we'll do them. I mean, for Lemmy's final birthday party, actually at the Whiskey in Los Angeles, we made Lemmy plates, we made Lemmy napkins, and we made Lemmy poker chips. So yeah, so it's like, we can do just about anything, as far as putting your logo on something else. That's what we do.
What about the mini guitars? They can pick it up through you or Axe Heaven?
The mini guitars are through Axe Heaven. The ones that we're doing for Pantera, though, those are strictly San Diego Comic-Con based. And if you are lucky enough to be a Comic-Con, we're doing it via a raffle system, so that it's a little bit more evenly distributed. So it's not just like, oh, you were the first 10 people here. Okay, great, you guys get them, and that's it. Yeah. We want to at least be able to have people have an equal chance to get them. But we want to make sure that they're accessible to people. So, but yeah, otherwise, axeheaven.com, axeheaven.com. You can find all sorts of killer guitars there too. I mean, Megadeth and Slayer and Metallica and Eddie Van Halen. I mean, there's so many dope things. And they actually just started doing drum kits too. So they have Joey Jordison's a little miniature drum kit, and we're talking about doing a Vinnie Paul drum kit now too. So
nice.
There's all sorts of fun stuff in the works.
Before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Of course. This is Ro Kohli from War Machine Marketing, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Turn it up, crank it up, and bang your face off.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Thank you so much, Ro.
No problem. Thank you.